offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Looking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this chilly Tuesday. If you're getting it done at work today, good on you. If you were told to stay home like a lot of folks, that's all right too. COVID vibes today for me today at the kitchen table, solo, making phone calls, checking emails. Felt very early 2020-ish. Don't love it. Don't love it. Glad to be here, and glad you were here with us on this Tuesday. Got Jacob Beck and Casey Gaines back there on the ones and twos. Plenty to get to. Glenn West in his normal spot coming up at 1:30, talking LSU football and basketball. We got to react to the NFL from yesterday, of course. Sharif Ishak will be with us in an hour and a half talking Saints, and we will have plenty to cover with Sharif Ishak because there is some breaking news within the last hour from down in New Orleans, and that's where we start today. The Saints announcing the dismissal of 3 offensive staffers, wide receiver coach Cody Burns, offensive analyst Bill Bicknell, and offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael. Of course, that's the one that's going to move the needle. This is not shocking in any way. This is something that many have suggested could be coming as we waded through this disappointing Saints season. Pete Carmichael, as you know, has been with the Saints for 18 years and was the right-hand man of Sean Payton on the offensive side of the football for better than a decade and a half. And his dismissal, while, as I said, not surprising, is evidence that the Saints feel they need to go in another direction, and I think is evidence of something that most of us believe, that once Sean Payton moved on, that chain of command got bumped up a little bit, and Dennis Allen went from controlling the defense to controlling the organization, and Pete Carmichael went from right-hand man to the general of the offense. Both of them were very, very competent in their previous roles, and the results have not been as good when they've been elevated. In my opinion, this decision was made probably midway through the season. That's my opinion. If you look at the Saints' first 7 football games this year, and you exclude the domination of New England, which I understand is unfair, but I'm very openly giving it to you as a caveat, because they scored 34 points in that game and they dominated a terrible New England team. But if you take the other 6 games in the first 7 weeks, the Saints averaged 16.5 points per game. They were largely inept on offense, even in wins against Carolina and Tennessee. And it just looked clunky and disorganized. They couldn't run the ball. They stunk in the red zone. Derek Carr looked uncomfortable. It was bad early on. Now, the last 6 games, where the Saints kind of turned it on there late and gave you hope that maybe they could get into the playoffs and win this bad division, in the last 6 games, they scored 29 points per game. So I kind of thought that, like Gail Benson and Dennis Lausa and Mickey Loomis have evidently decided that there was enough good late in the season to suggest things were on the right track, so they're going to keep Dennis Allen. I figured Dennis Allen might look at this 29 points per game. Derek Carr with an incredible passer rating and fantastic numbers over the last month when he finally got healthy, and go, look, we're on the right track. I don't think most who pull for the Saints or cover the Saints necessarily felt that way, but I would not have been surprised at all if Dennis Allen would have suggested that. But he's moved on. If you look at the Saints offense from 2023, statistically it doesn't look atrocious. And I realize that's not exactly a high bar to clear. They were 10th in the league in points per game. Right in the middle, 14th in the league in yards per game. They were 12th in the league in passing yards per game. So top half of the NFL in points and yards and passing yards per, and like, okay.
I wonder how many of those yards and points came while they were down 2 or more touchdowns.
That's part of the deal. Absolutely part of the deal. And part of that is the fact that they couldn't run the ball at all. 21st in the league in rushing yards per game, 31st in the league in rushing yards per attempt, almost dead last there. And then in the red zone, they were so bad for the first half and very, very good at the end, and the net there is 18th in the league. But they just weren't good enough. And my suggestion, which has been my suggestion since Halloween, basically, would have been for the Saints to go in a completely different direction from a coaching perspective all the way. Because you had a very, very poor record in Dennis Allen's first year as head coach. Then in his second year as head coach, you upgraded the quarterback position. You stayed relatively healthy by NFL standards. You were handed the second easiest schedule in the NFL, in easily the worst division in the league, and you didn't get it done. And to me, there is no evidence that Dennis Allen will get this done. Not from his time with the Raiders, not from his time with New Orleans. None. That doesn't mean it can't happen. There's just no evidence to support it. The evidence is they never get it done. They don't get it done in the silver and black out west. They don't get it done in the black and gold down south. But the organization, which so strongly believes in continuity, has determined that they're going to prioritize that over the evidence that's in front of them. And the fall guy for all of this is Pete Carmichael. Certainly, you can't glean that Cody Burns and his ability to develop wide receiver talent or the inability to develop it is why the Saints were poor this year and finished 9-8 and didn't make the playoffs. No, I think Rashid Shaheed's developed just fine. I think Chris Olave's developed just fine. I think Michael Thomas can't stay on a football field.
A.T. Perry was pretty good.
A.T. Perry did a nice job late in the season, certainly. Bob Bicknell, I don't even know what Bob does. Offensive analyst, somehow he ended up on the chopping block today. Obviously, there was a message sent to Dennis Allen, hey, we gotta make some changes on the offensive side of the ball. Do what you think needs to do. And they move on from Pete Carmichael, Cody Burns, and Bob McNell. Now, I'm not going to speak from a position of authority on Ronald Curry's acumen in game planning and calling plays. He's the passing game coordinator. He works with the quarterbacks. And the passing game, as I illustrated by those numbers a little bit earlier, was okay. And it was certainly pretty good and efficient late in the season. But I will balk at the notion that they should elevate him and just fill in your wide receivers coach and keep the ship moving. I will balk at that. Stop doing that, Saints. Drew Brees does not play here anymore. Sean Payton does not coach here anymore. Please stop elevating people from one position to the next. They get out of their depth and it doesn't work. Go get somebody to come in here and change stuff. If you're not going to change the head coach and you're going to keep the defense the same and you're going to keep moving forward with this quarterback and this core nucleus of players, get some new blood in the coaching staff and make some changes and get with the modern NFL. Pete Carmichael was here 18 years ago. It was an I-formation league. Get somebody that comes from this Shanahan, McVay, McDaniel tree that can do some things that are a little bit more creative. Again, you don't come from me as the listener for the all-22 angle on NFL football. I'm not telling you what they did right or what they did wrong. I'm just telling you I look around the league and I see young, innovative coaches winning a lot of football games and scoring a lot of points. Seems like something the Saints should be a little bit interested in. You still got some guys that can play on that side of the ball with the ball in their hands. The offensive line's a bit of a mess. And I guess you could suggest the jury's still out a little bit on Derek Carr for some. I just think he's like the 14th best quarterback in the league, and that's what he is. I'd rather have him than Bryce Young. I'd probably rather have him than like Kyler Murray. And there are plenty of guys down the back end that I don't think are very good. I'll take Derek Carr over Sam Howell in Washington, okay? But he's not going to be the game-changing, franchise revolutionary quarterback towards the top of the NFL. So you've got to get somebody in there that makes up for that gap between the 15th quarterback and the 4th quarterback with some great creative play calling. Look at the position that Matt LaFleur put Jordan Love in late in the season and what he got out of it. I could have made 2 of those touchdown passes against Dallas because the scheme was great. Go get someone outside the... I'm not even going to give you names today. That's not even the point. But if the Saints continue to sit there and elevate people and elevate people, and Ronald Curry is next up, you just tell me you're just not a serious organization. That you just want to keep the club together and keep it, and you think you're really close. You're not close. You're not. Go get a real offensive coordinator. Not Sean Payton's right-hand man who didn't even want the job. So we'll see what's next down in New Orleans. We'll talk to Sharif Ishak coming up at the bottom of hour 2, see what he thinks and what the word is, and if there are any other changes coming down with the black and gold. But today, the dismissal of wide receiver coach Cody Burns, offensive analyst Bob Bignell, and then offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael was made official by the organization less than 1 hour ago. Plenty to get to here on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Stay warm out there. I want to remind y'all, always Pluckers trivia every single Tuesday night, Nicholson location. Not tonight. Pluckers is closed, so we'll stay indoors. We'll stay warm. Told my wife we can have movie night tonight because I'm not going to Pluckers and I don't have to watch basketball tonight. So we'll have some movie night. Eat a pot roast. It's in the slow cooker. That's some winter stuff going on in the Palmer house. So if you usually join us for Pluckers trivia on Tuesday nights, don't worry about it. We'll be back next week. When we come back, I didn't get to this story yesterday, meant to, and just ran out of time, but we will get to it today. LSU added to their wide receiver room from the transfer portal. I'll give my thoughts on why and how things shake out. That's next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, Our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the country.
On Wednesday's OTB, give you the latest out of the never-ending college football news cycle and a brand new hour of Flestering. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Glenn West to go 24/7 with us in 15 minutes talking LSU basketball and football. I want to get to this story about LSU adding wide receiver C.J. Daniels from Liberty. Daniels last season for Liberty, 55 catches, went over 1,000 yards, had 10 touchdowns for the Flames. You'll recall that was a really good team in terms of wins and losses. The strength of schedule was literally the worst in the country. But Daniels is a 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver, hails originally from Georgia, and adds more depth to the LSU receiving room. You all know at this point that LSU lost more than 65% of its receiving production from last year when Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors elected to enter the NFL draft. So now you have to replace that. And I'll make an analogy from my childhood as to what I think LSU is doing with the wide receiver position here. When I was in second grade, if you did something good in Miss Bond's class, you got to write your name on a little ticket and put it in this big cookie jar. And you could do that endless amount of times throughout the week, whether you were holding the door open for somebody, if you made a really good score on a test, maybe if it was your birthday, you got to throw one in there. But if you did something good, you got to put a ticket in the cookie jar. And Friday afternoon, right before carpool started up, Miss Bond would draw 3 or 4 names out of there. And of course, if you had done more good things throughout the week, you had a better chance of getting a no homework slip or a koosh ball or whatever the case may have been. Maybe a new pack of cool colored pens. But that was the goal for everybody in the class, was to get as many of those tickets into the bucket so that you might get drawn out on Friday. And that's what it feels like this edition is for C.J. Daniels at wide receiver. Need me to explain that analogy a little bit more? Here you go. They don't need more wide receivers. Without C.J. Daniels, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that would be on the roster entering next year. They've got a lot of guys. This is just about putting more tickets in that bucket. Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Xavier Thomas, C.J. Daniels, Jelani Watkins, Kylan Billiot, Michael Turner. Because you really just need to make sure that like 3 of those work for you. And the more you put in that room, the better chance you have. None of these guys, it would shock me if any of these guys that I just named have a season that looks anything like Malik Neighbors just had. I just don't think that's in the cards for any of them. I don't think any of them will have the season that Brian Thomas had, where he led college football in touchdown catches. But you don't need 9 guys to be good. You need 4. And they just felt like C.J. Daniels was another good name to add here. So now I've got all these names in a bucket, and I need like 4 of them to hit. There's no guarantee that Shelton Sampson becomes a star. Yeah, he was a 5-star recruit, but he could be. He's in the bucket. Kyle Parker looks incredibly efficient running routes. He is a technician at the wide receiver spot. Do I know if he's going to be great or not? No, but he's another name that's in the bucket. You bring in Xavier Thomas and C.J. Daniels. Thomas, you feel like can really help you in the kick return game. He was in a bad offense last year, had over 500 yards. Like, do I know he's going to be great? No, but he's got a chance. Like, he might be. C.J. Daniels lights it up for Liberty. 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Do I know if that translates to playing against Auburn, Alabama, and A&M? Well, we don't play Auburn next year, but that's weird to say. But against Alabama, A&M, and Ole Miss next year. Do I know it translates? No, but it's another guy that might. Kyron Lacey was a 3 last year. Can he elevate to a 2 or a 1? I don't know, but it's another shot. Maybe Kylan Billiot, who showed out at his All-American Bowl practices, was one of the biggest stock-up guys at the workouts all week long. Maybe he steps in as a true freshman and can really help. Again, none of these guys are sure things. And if you did a really good thing in my second grade class, it wasn't a sure thing you were going to get pulled out, but it gave you a better chance. And that's where I think LSU is. I feel very, very good about LSU up front on the offensive line next year. I feel much better today than I did on New Year's Eve about Garrett Nussmeier because I thought he played very, very well in the bowl game. I think LSU's tight end room is loaded. The question is, how dynamic are you at wide receiver? And you could look at recruiting rankings and say, well, they're loaded. But recruiting rankings don't always tell the whole story. They just give you a chance. I like LSU's chances a lot better with a bunch of guys who are 4- and 5-star recruits than I would if they were a bunch of 2- and 3s. But I don't know. This is just another chance. If you made me guess what the wide receiver room looks like when they break the huddle in Las Vegas Labor Day weekend, I could throw that out there. I think Kyron Lacey's on the field. I think Chris Hilton's on the field. And I kind of think C.J. Daniels is on the field. He feels like number 3 to me. Drops were a little bit of an issue for him at Liberty, but when I turn on the highlight tape of him, check it out on YouTube, I see a guy whose body control is good, who makes some athletic, acrobatic catches, and at 6'2", 200 pounds, and far from a kid, he's senior in college. That looks good to me. And I have no problem with Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Xavier Thomas, and the 3 freshmen getting their chance too. I think it's easy for us as folks that follow the program, pull for the program, to look at a position group, to see exceptional departures, and just assume that the next 4- and 5-star guy hits, or just assume that the transfer portal guy translates to this level. And sometimes it does. And sometimes it doesn't. The more opportunity you give yourself, obviously, the better you are. And clearly, LSU felt like it was worthwhile in a scholarship situation that is shrinking. Like, when Brian Kelly got here, you can take whoever you want. You got 38 dudes. Take anybody that'll come wear purple and gold in. You can't get to 85. Well, now we're 2 years in. They are flirting with 85. So you do have to be a little more selective with the guys you take and at what positions you take them. And you're looking at a wide receiver position that was 8 or 9 deep. They can, we'll add another one. which if you want to be pessimistic and read tea leaves, thinks that they need more talent at wide receiver, but by the same vein, they just got it. So that's a good thing. Again, that room, Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Xavier Thomas, CJ Daniels. Those are the upperclassmen, non-freshmen. And then you got Jelani Watkins, Kylan Billiot, and Michael Turner coming in this class. If that's the biggest question mark on the offense, and I think it might be, you got Josh Williams back at running back. You've got Caleb Jackson back. You got Trey Holly back. You add Caden Durham in. I think I feel more confident in that position than I do necessarily out wide. I don't feel bad about either one of them. But it ain't offensive line that's the biggest question. It's not tight end. And right now, to me, it's really not quarterback. Now, Garrett Nussmeier gets hurt, and you got to go to A.J. Swan. That becomes a little different discussion. But we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that in January. We'll keep the quarterback healthy for the terms of the January discussion. But I think this is a good ad for LSU. Good size, great production, older player, and a guy that I think fills in kind of in the Brian Thomas mold. The body type is similar to Brian Thomas. I don't know if he's got quite the high-end speed that Thomas does, but good ad for LSU, and I think you look healthy at wide receiver, if a little bit unproven in some spots. It'll be something we can kick around when the spring rolls around. Hope you're staying warm out there. Temps creeping up above freezing here for the afternoon. If you want to get out and about and get your groceries, get the kiddos. We sent my kid to my aunt and uncle's house across False River, and we can't get over there for a couple of days. So got a quiet house for the time being at the Palmer resident. I know there's a lot of you that are trying to get some work done in very not quiet houses at the moment. I get that, too, if you're locking us in from home while you're getting your work day moving along. We appreciate you for hanging out with us. If you're out and about, thanks for hanging out with us. Be careful, be safe, and stay warm out there. We'll come back with Glenn West to Go 24/7 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 lifted trucks. $10,000 off new Ford F-150 and 3.9% financing. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Sandiger joined me and Jimmy Ott for the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch from the original walk-ons Burbank and Nicholson. Professional sports handicapper Randy McKay along with Scott Rabelais and Wes Reynolds joins us live at lunch 11 a.m. Wednesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Every week at this time, we head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, chat with our guy Glenn West from Go 24/7. We do so now. Glenn, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Hunt. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. Last time we spoke with you, LSU was 1-0 in Southeastern Conference play in basketball. They would go on to beat Vanderbilt at home that night, and then got smoked for about 30 minutes at Auburn, scratched back into it, and then ended up losing by 15 points through 3 games. How do you feel about where LSU sits today?
Well, I got to say, I feel much better about this team at this point in the year than I did about last year's team at that point in the season a year ago. I think that there's a little more depth certainly on this roster. And I think what you really got to see in that Auburn game is, yes, they got down by 28 points. It didn't look good for a lot of that game and, against the road, against one of the more hostile environments in the country. But what I really liked was just how they came back and they fought back and they punched Auburn in the mouth there for about 10 minutes in the second half and were able to cut a 28-point deficit down to 8 with about 3 or 4 minutes to go. And look, when you're down 3 or 4, when you're down by that margin with 3 or 4, 5 minutes left in the game, I think you kind of set yourself up there to at least be in position to win the game. And they ran out of gas there down the stretch, and it wasn't a very clean finish to the game by any stretch. But if you look at this year's team compared to what maybe would have been last year's team, they didn't fold. They punched back and they found a rotation that worked for them. I mean, I think that has been something I've been thinking about in the back of my mind. I've said it a bunch, wrote it a bunch, but I just think that one of the blueprints to success for this team is once you find a lineup that's working in the game, you just got to kind of lean into it and let it ride. And I think that's what McMahon and LSU were able to do Saturday against Auburn. And obviously now you've got a really big, important top 25 matchup here in the PMAC tomorrow night. So if they can build on some of this confidence, some of this momentum that they've built in these first 3 games, this would be a really good opportunity with school back in session and students are back to maybe try to build on it and see if you can't get some more folks out to watch you play here down the stretch.
Anything specifically you saw when they cut that lead from 28 down to 9 that you liked?
Yeah, well, I think probably the biggest thing was that they hit some threes. I mean, Tyrell Ward got in a little hot streak. You had Trey Hannibal knock down a 3. That's not really part of his game, but it was nice to see him do that. But I think the biggest thing here was they had turned the ball over so much in the first 25, 30 minutes of that game. that Auburn was just getting out in transition so much, and they were able to limit their turnovers. They were able to hold Auburn to one shot. And this team is at its best when it's getting downhill and it's creating shots at the rim and getting to the foul line. They did that at a much more rapid rate during that 10, 11-minute stretch there where they really cut into that deficit. And that's been the blueprint for them so far. It's been getting to the rim, finishing around the rim, getting to the foul line, and then most recently here what you saw with those threes. Maybe you can kind of build some momentum here and see if you can't make that a more consistent part of your game plan going forward, because I do think they have some capable shooters, whether it's Jordan Wright or Jalen Cook or Tyrell Ward. Those are three that kind of come off the top of my mind as guys that I think can be pretty consistent for you from beyond the arc, and I think that they certainly would like to lean into that a little bit more here as we move forward with SEC play.
Do they need Jalen Cook to shoot it better?
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no question. I mean, I think the half-court offense, when he's out there, just looks so much smoother in terms of shot creation, not only for himself but for others as well. And you saw it there in a couple of these games where he's shot the ball well. The offense has kind of followed suit and moved and flowed really, really fluidly when he's playing well. So that's absolutely got to be something that they got to find, his consistency level. I think I believe it was the Vanderbilt game where he had 28 or 30 points, and
yep.
The offense looked as good as it has all season when he's cooking like that. So definitely need to see it more consistently out of him. But the blueprint's there for this team to have success, and it obviously starts with Jalen being a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more consistent offensively.
What do you think this team's strength is that they can depend on showing up more nights than it doesn't?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest strength is points in the paint, getting into the painted area and finishing around the rim. I still would like to see them be a little bit more consistent from beyond the arc, but they've been such a really good team out in transition too. That's been a really much improved area to their success this year when they're getting steals and they're able to convert in transition. That's been an area that has been really successful for them. I think they're number 1 or number 2 in the conference right now in terms of steals and steal rate and just creating points in transition for themselves. That's been a huge part of their success this year. So I would say those two things, finishing around the rim, getting it to Will Baker and finishing around the points in the paint area, but then also getting out in transition and finishing with those transition opportunities.
Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels coming in tomorrow to the PMAC. New identity for that program with Chris Beard, who's obviously been to a national final and is one of the most respected coaches in the country on the floor. What's the challenge for LSU tomorrow?
Oh, man, there's a couple of them, but I was, just been doing some research today on that matchup. They got a really elite backcourt. I mean, 2 of their top scorers are top 10 in the SEC in scoring, in Merle and Flanagan. Those two, I think, are both averaging over 16 points a game. So your perimeter defense is going to have to be really sound. Ole Miss is actually also shooting 40% from 3 as a team this year on pretty high clip. I mean, that is a pretty remarkable percentage there to be shooting over 40% as a college team. I think that's top 5 in the country right now as well. So their perimeter defense is going to have to be sound for LSU. They're a very good team when they get out in transition and when they're creating steals. I think they're number 2 in the SEC in steals and number 1 in blocks, so they have some size. But they also make a lot of plays at the rim as well. So they're a pretty complete team and very impressive start. I mean, 15-1 in his first year in the SEC. Obviously has built this thing up pretty quickly in Oxford, and it's going to be a really tough matchup here in the PMAC for LSU tomorrow. But I do think that there's, this is a good opportunity for LSU as well to continue to make a statement here in the SEC that they can be competitive and maybe see if they can't draw some more fans to these games as a result of their being a little bit more competitive and these games being a little bit more fun.
Glenn West, senior writer over at Go 24/7, talking LSU basketball and now football. C.J. Daniels, wide receiver from Liberty, commits to LSU via the transfer portal. Where does he slot into the wide receiver position for this group?
Yeah, I think he'll probably shoot up the board pretty quickly in terms of the depth chart. I mean, he's an explosive receiver. He spent the last 4 years at Liberty, has played in over 40 games, so he's got some experience on his side. He was number 11 in the country this last year in terms of yards per catch. I think he averages a little under 19.5 yards a catch a game. So that he's a big play threat, a guy that can go vertical and make some big plays happen. And I think he's kind of what you're hoping to see in terms of your Brian Thomas prototype, replacement there. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to have a Brian Thomas year or anything, but he kind of fits that mold in terms of a big-bodied receiver, somebody that can go up and make some plays and be a little bit more consistent for you on the outside. So I think it's a big, big piece for LSU. I think he was a top 5 portal wide receiver on our service right now. So, I think it's very interesting that LSU's been going in the portal here for more receivers. And, I think it just kind of points to them wanting this to be a really competitive offseason at that position room. They've got a lot of bodies, a lot of numbers going into the spring, and there's certainly going to be a lot of opportunities here for Garrett Nussmeier to get multiple weapons involved, and I'll be excited to see what that looks like here in a couple months.
Who do you think has a bigger impact next year on the offense, Aaron Anderson or Shelton Sampson?
I think it's hard to say at this point. I mean, I think those are two names that you're really hoping can have huge, huge springs and stick around. I mean, look, it's going to be a numbers game at some point, and there's going to be some attrition, I would imagine, with 9, 10, 11 receivers in the room right now. Those two are two that I have penciled in as guys that absolutely you would love to see take that next step. If I had to choose one, I would probably lean towards Sampson right now, just because I do think that he made some real strides towards the end of the regular season in those bowl practices that we got to see. He was going up and making some plays. But you got to translate that and convert on it when it comes to springtime here as well, and kind of assert yourself as a rotational piece here in this offense.
What's coming up on Go 24/7?
Yeah, well, lots of stuff. Obviously, we're still keeping an eye here on the defensive staff and the offensive staff getting filled out. All those moves still need to be made official. Got baseball season's coming up here next week. We have the media day for baseball, not this Friday, but next Friday, and certainly a lot of exciting buzz around the baseball program, but also recruiting as well with the 2024 class. 2025 obviously is off to a huge start, and LSU's going to be looking to continue to build that momentum here in the spring months.
We'll talk to you soon, Glenn. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate it, Hunt. Thank you.
He's Glenn West, senior writer over at Go 24/7. All your team coverage, all your recruiting needs, they got you covered over there at Go 24/7. Glenn's with us each and every Tuesday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, I got a couple things I want to get to. Second hour, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Saints, specifically as it relates to Tampa winning yesterday and what that means for New Orleans. Sharif Ishak's going to be with us, so a lot of Saints in hour number 2. When we come back, saw another mock draft. Where does Jaden Daniels land? You might not like it. And SEC basketball tonight. We'll get you set up for that as well. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 Black Widow trucks, $20,000 off new Ram 1500 trucks, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Sloan. Shop in-store or online today because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid 1/4 through 1/24. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowes.com for details.
Get your college football fix all year long on the Chuck Oliver Show. The king of college football brings you 2 hours of live and local college football talk throughout the year. Weeknights from 6 to 8 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. You can hear all of your favorite shows on 104.5 ESPN in crystal clear high definition. Tune to 98.1 and select HD2.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. LSU still active in the transfer portal. What needs remain? We'll ask Shay Dixon. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Listen to all 4 NFL playoff games from the divisional round starting Saturday afternoon at 3:30 when the Ravens host the Texans, and continuing Sunday afternoon at 2 when the Detroit Lions will host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Go to 1045ESPN.com for a full schedule. Your home for the 2024 NFL playoffs and Super Bowl 58 is 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Athletic came out with a new mock draft for the NFL draft today. Yesterday, if you were listening, I had a segment saying that with the teams locked in draft order and understanding the needs of specific franchises, you felt like Jaden Daniels had a real chance to be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. I still feel that way because the Bears pick first, and we think they're going to draft a quarterback. If they don't draft a quarterback, they will move out of that pick, and they will get another king's ransom for it. And then number 2, Washington has that pick, and we figure they're certainly in the market for a quarterback. And number 3, New England picks, and we think they're certainly in the market for a quarterback. However, this mock draft from The Athletic does not have the New England Patriots taking a quarterback. They do have the Bears taking Caleb Williams at 1. They have the Commanders taking Drake May at 2. And they have the Patriots taking Marvin Harrison Jr. 3. I said, okay, well, what does that mean for where Jaden Daniels might end up? Well, the Cardinals, potentially sticking with Kyler Murray here, maybe in the market for a wide receiver, and The Athletic has Malik Neighbors going 4th overall to Arizona, which would be incredible for him. Then it's got the Chargers. They're not going to take a quarterback, but they have Brock Bowers going to the Chargers. That's pretty attractive there with Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen still playing at a high level. Then they've got the Giants coming up at 6. Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. The Tennessee Titans taking who many presume to be the top tackle on the board in Joe Alt. They've got Will Levis and don't figure to be in the quarterback market. And that brings us to pick number 8. Do you know who has pick number 8? You probably don't, but you will now because it's Atlanta. And they have Jaden Daniels being the pick there. Now that sounds like a nightmare scenario for those of you in purple and gold on Saturdays and black and gold on Sundays. You don't really want to pull against your Heisman winner, right? Like, I can't quite put myself in these shoes because the only professional team that I pull for strongly is the Chicago Cubs. And I've never had a superstar LSU player play for the Cardinals or the Brewers. Like, that hasn't happened. Gosman's bounced around. Bregman's been in Houston the whole time. Seen Aaron Nola thrive in Philadelphia. That hasn't really crossed paths with the Cubs. But you talk about the toast of the town, the Heisman Trophy winner, one of the greatest players in the history of the school, one of the greatest seasons in the history of the school, slipping down to 8. You know Atlanta would be there to take him because they're moving on from the 2 guys they were shuffling back and forth this year. Arthur Smith's out the door. We'll see who they can get to take that place. But in my hypothetical yesterday, I did not have Jaden Daniels available at 8. You were going to have to get into the top 3 to get one of the 3 quarterbacks. In this, it kind of makes some sense. Now, it would stand to reason that a team like the Chargers at 5, if Jaden Daniels was still there or Drake May was still there, they might be able to back up and allow someone to swoop in and take the quarterback. So maybe Daniels just never gets to 8 anyway. But that's not really the point of this exercise to talk about exactly where Jaden Daniels is going to go. We're just talking about where he could go. And if he were to slip to number 8, I've got a feeling there are a lot of you that are listening right now that would be pretty cranky about that. Because you're hypothetically, and the Falcons would hope, that you're buckling in for like 15 years of hardcore pulling against the guy you helped will to the Heisman Trophy this year. That's a bummer. Like, no two ways about it. As much as I don't feel the same way you would. I would hope the Saints beat the Falcons, but I'm certainly not like some dyed-in-the-wool Atlanta hater who's got a 28-3 blanket on my bed at home. Like, I just don't live in that world. But a lot of you do, and I fully support that. But I can see where that would just be such a bummer, where 2 times a year, and really all season long as you're fighting to try to win divisions, you've got to hope that Jaden Daniels fails. It's nice that Joe's tucked up there in Cincinnati. You don't have to worry about him from a Saints perspective. Yeah, it sucked last year when he hit Jamar down the sideline and they beat the Saints late in that game. But that doesn't happen very often. Now, theoretically, I guess it could happen in a Super Bowl, which would be real weird. But this is guaranteed to happen if he were to be taken by Atlanta. Like, you would have to deal with him twice a year for the foreseeable future, at least 4 years. So let's pull against that. I'm pulling against that. I don't want to deal with that. Matt already gets mad at me for pulling for the Bengals. I come in here with a Falcons jersey, I'll probably get fired. Likely get fired if I came in here with a Jaden Daniels support clothing on. So we'll try to avoid that and see if we can't just settle in and make sure that whoever's calling the shots up there for New England at 3 does not take Marvin Harrison Jr., but instead takes Jaden Daniels so we don't have to deal with it. He can play in the AFC North, AFC East. We'll be fine with that. We'll see. A lot of mock drafting to be done. And the final order for the first round, not even done yet because we're obviously not done with the playoffs. Still got to do 3 weeks of that. But the Saints are more in the news for firing an offensive coordinator and where they pick in the mock draft. And incidentally, in this mock draft, I guess I can scroll down and tell you who they had the Saints selecting. And I think it would be a really strong pick. They have the Saints at 14 taking Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State, who no doubt y'all are very familiar with. They got to find somebody to rush the passer one way or another. That would be a pretty good start there if the Saints could get their hands on Jared Verse. You still have hope for Isaiah Foskey, but it's a process there. You got to find pass rush from somewhere else. Maybe Jared Verse could be that guy. So that's your look at the mock draft from The Athletic for today. A busy hour number one. Open things up with the news of the day. If you just missed this, knocking off of work or just jumped in the car or hadn't been paying attention, after 18 years of service in the organization, Pete Carmichael has been relieved of his duties as the offensive coordinator. Joining him out the door, Cody Burns, the wide receiver coach, as well as Bob Bicknell, offensive analyst. The Saints will go in a different direction offensively. If you missed that, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, as well as on YouTube, Hunt on Saints. Our Hunt on Saints channel is doing some really good things. Subscriber numbers are up, views are up, so we appreciate y'all for subscribing to that and for getting those views in. Talked about the new wide receiver that has joined the LSU football program, CJ Daniels. You can find that on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. Glenn West from Go247 was with us. Then we got you caught up on a mock draft. Got a lot of Saints that we're going to get to in hour number 2. Sharif Ishak will be with us. So come back with us after Sports Center. Stay warm out there. It's a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 Black Widow trucks, $20,000 off new Ram 1500 trucks, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 lifted trucks. $10,000 off new Ford F-150 and 3.9% financing. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. A future Pro Football Hall of Famer has apparently played his final game. ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting Eagles center Jason Kelce told his teammates after the wild-card playoff loss to the Buccaneers that he will retire. Asked if he's concerned about his job status, Eagles coach Nick Sirianni said he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about the guys in the locker room. Quarterback Jalen Hurts answered to if he wanted Sirianni back for another season. He didn't know his coach was going anywhere. Philadelphia needs to think beyond 2024 when it comes to a call on Sirianni, suggests ESPN's Louis Riddick.
Is he really the guy that you want leading the charge going down the stretch here in terms of like a couple of years from now? Or is Bill Belichick in play? Is that the kind of guy who needs to be in play here? Because personally, I think it's something that you definitely have to consider.
ESPN NFL analyst Louis Riddick on Get Up. Belichick has interviewed for the Falcons head coaching job, the first known interview since mutually parting ways with New England after 24 seasons. ESPN's Pete Thamos reporting Arizona's agreed to a 5-year deal to make San Jose State's Brent Brennan the school's next head football coach.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Wednesday, I'll tell you which underdog has the best chance to pull off the upset in the divisional round. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Thanks for hanging out with us on this chilly Tuesday here in South Louisiana. Hope you're staying warm. Hope you're staying sane. If you've got the kids cooped up in the house all day trying to get some work done, we're here to help you out. Here with you for another hour here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Sharif Ishak talking Saints in 30 minutes. I want to start with Saints here as well in this segment because the discussion that we had basically, well, here's how the discussion was framed. You were here for it. You had it. In August, when you look at the Saints, okay, best team in the division, new quarterback, defense should be very good under Dennis Allen, a lot of the same cast of characters. You ought to be able to win this division. Okay. That's where most of us started in August. And then you get off to a bad start. And the injury to Derek Carr and the poor play and losses start piling up. And all of a sudden, a lot of it shifted to, okay, you got two options here. One, the bottom's going to fall out of this thing, and they're going to have to fire Dennis Allen after 2 years. Or two, they will limp their way to the finish line and find a way to win this awful division and get hammered in a first-round playoff game by Dallas or Philly. Like, right? That's kind of where we were in early November. And then really neither one of those happened because you didn't limp to the finish line. You actually finished strong. And you had to wait until the 3 o'clock window of the final week to determine whether or not you were actually going to make the playoffs. And some wanted to make the playoffs because that's the point of the sport. Some did not because they felt so strongly that Dennis Allen was the wrong direction here that you need that to become evident to the front office. If you go back and play the tape from me, here was my no skin in the game, outside observer thought on the last 2 weeks. I said, if you're a Saints fan, I think you should pull for the Saints to win because I don't believe that the brass upstairs in the Saints office is going to take 2 years of body of work and boil it down to 2 weeks and whether or not your 9-8 was good enough to win the garbage NFC South. I believe that there's a chance that they will fire Dennis Allen for winning the South at 9-8. I believe there's a chance that they could keep everybody at 9-8, depending on how they feel about it. But it shouldn't matter what the final score is over the last 3 hours against Atlanta. I don't think that the people that make the decisions are that short-sighted. I think they will take everything into account. So you ought to hope you make the playoffs and take a swing at it. And you didn't. But guess who did? Tampa. And we saw what happened yesterday. We could not have forecasted a month ago that Philly would free fall. That honestly came out of nowhere. And yesterday when we were talking about the game, I told the story of listening to Paul Hembekides, Himbo on the Greenie show, who is a big Philly fan, who gave the quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, America, who doesn't watch Philadelphia every week, still thinks they're good. They're not. And he watches them every week. And guess what? They're not. And Tampa punked them. And now Tampa is in position to go to Detroit and play the Lions. And the Lions are good. And the Lions came to the Superdome and smacked the Saints for the first 25 minutes of game time of that game. And the Lions are 6.5-point favorites on the Bucks. But with Dallas out, as well as they played all year, and with Philly out, who you were probably terrified of in Halloween and thought, well, there's no way the Saints could beat those two teams, all of a sudden, you're one game in Tampa away against the Lions from just taking one swing at San Francisco. And I don't think anybody, if given the opportunity, is going to turn down taking San Francisco in the NFC at this point with 4 teams left. But Tampa is walking in what we thought were the Saints' footsteps right now, and that's the path. Free fall in Philly at home. Detroit, who, as of 72 hours ago, hadn't won a playoff game since 1991. I was all of 3 years old at that point. That's what is standing between you and the NFC Championship game. Last year, Brock Purdy played in the NFC Championship game and couldn't throw a pass. So you never know what's going to happen in the final game of the year. I say all of that to circle back around a point where I still think that the Saints would have been wiser to move on from Dennis Allen than not. However, today we got the news with the firing of Pete Carmichael that they are going to make significant changes to the product on the field next year. Now, if they make a simple promotion of Ronald Curry, then I'll throw my hands up again. But we haven't seen that yet, so I'll reserve that. I still think the Saints should have moved on from Dennis Allen. They did not. And you look at where they could have been, and all of a sudden, I want to look back at my take from 5 weeks ago and go, maybe that was dumb. Now, I have the benefit of hindsight now. I didn't then. And I'll have more hindsight coming up Sunday night at about 6 o'clock when I have the result of the Bucs-Lions game. But we all think that the Saints were comparable to Tampa this year, right? Tampa came into New Orleans and smoked the Saints when the Saints were playing terribly, and the Saints went to Tampa and took care of business against the Buccaneers late in the season. And the Saints were playing pretty good late. I'm trying to use all this information for the next time this situation rolls around. And I'll have hindsight eventually on what the Bucs inevitably do, taking the steps that the Saints were in line theoretically to take. So right now, as I sit here, I still stand firm in that winning the division in one playoff game and then losing on the road to Detroit is still not as beneficial to the future of the New Orleans Saints as getting rid of Dennis Allen. That's where I sit today. Got to have a take. You got to stand for something. But I'm perfectly happy to admit when I'm dead wrong. It happens all the time. Remember, I'm the guy who said take Philly minus the 3 points yesterday. How'd that go? You know, it happens all the time. But it's just interesting to sit here and understand where we thought things sat in August, and kind of as this thing winded, and you were jockeying with Tampa at the end, they nudge you out by a nose, and they're 60 minutes away for playing from the conference championship. Now, the Saints, to their credit, did make a move today, which makes me feel better about the entire situation. What you could not do was stand pat based on a 9-8 record and then looking at this going, well, we were about as good as Tampa, and Tampa's like knocking on the door. We are really close. And I'm sure that's what they are doing with the offensive coordinator change in mind, thinking, yeah, we're that close. We're that close. I don't believe that. But you're really close to Tampa. That's inarguable. And here they sit. We'll revisit this as the weeks go on. If Tampa loses this week by 20 points, that will further our point, I think, that you weren't really that close. If Tampa wins, it's a tougher argument. And again, that's all hindsight. But I'm laying out my thought process step by step so as to not bury that and suggest I knew all along. That's not my point. I'm just trying to walk along with this thing step by step and see. But Tampa will play the Lions in the divisional round at 2 o'clock on NBC from Ford Field in Detroit coming up on Sunday. Incidentally, my birthday on Sunday, January 21 of 2024. We got Sharif Ishak. We'll get his thoughts on that entire situation, on Pete Carmichael, on how close the Saints actually are, and where they may turn next. That's coming up in 20 minutes. I do want to remind you that we will not have Plucker Sports Trivia tonight. Pluckers is closed. Going to let everybody stay home, stay safe, stay warm. So we'll be back in the saddle next week for Plucker Sports Trivia from the Nicholson location. So if you're one of the folks that always comes out and hangs, we appreciate that. Don't take the time to do so tonight. Spend some time with the family or spend some time at home just laying low. That's not a terrible thing to do on a Tuesday evening. We'll be back with a little bit more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Always love telling you about One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, safety is massively important, especially as some of our loved ones age. They want to stay in that house that they've been in for a long time, but need some assistance and some safety precautions in the bathroom. It's a dangerous area in the house. One Bath and Closets can absolutely help with that, whether it's handrails near the toilet or shower area, whether it's a walk-in tub or shower, whether it's a non-stick floor that you can put in, non-slip floor, I should say, you can put in. They do that stuff all the time over at One Bath and Closets. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. Check out the free consultation. It's a link right there at the top of the page. You can see pictures of their great work, testimonials from their satisfied customers. And again, get that free consultation. David Duvall and his team will come in, tell you what they can do for you. If you're worried about the cost of things, financing options are available with One Bath and Closets. Check out that website, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 9.
On Wednesday's OTB, give you the latest out of the never-ending college football news cycle and a brand new hour of Flestering. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I mentioned this back in the first hour, but I got some COVID vibes today, working from the kitchen table, sitting at home alone. Just not my thing. I don't like hanging out.
Just
at
vibes,
home.
though, right?
Just vibes. Okay. I don't actually have COVID, as far as I know.
Just confirming.
I don't have any symptoms of COVID, but you never know. But it just felt like 2020, which was just so boring and so not fun. And today I kind of got a little bit of that before I came into the office. If you've been just hanging out and sitting around all day, not going into work and looking for something to watch and you're a sports fan, I can interest you in some early SEC basketball today. Bad weather in Knoxville, Tennessee, so they will play at 4 o'clock. Florida in Tennessee. Vols are a 10.5-point favorite. Tennessee is very good. They're only 2-1 in league play and 12-4 overall, so you would suggest, well, that's not that impressive, but they're a top 10 team in the country. They had 3 losses that all came in a row back in December against number 2 Purdue, number 1 Kansas, and number 17 North Carolina on the road. So it's not like they were playing a weak non-conference schedule. It was a ridiculous non-conference schedule that they've wound through. Mississippi State got them in Starkville by 5 a little bit earlier, but they responded and beat Georgia on the road. They hammered Ole Miss a couple of weeks ago. So Florida comes in with a team that's been okay. They're still kind of finding their way under Todd Golden. Mike White left a reasonable team, kind of spearheaded by Colin Castleton, but Golden's kind of turned it over. But Tennessee is just really good. They're really long. They're really athletic. They're really veteran. And they added Dalton Knacht, who's been a really, really good junior college or transfer portal ad for them to add to kind of all of those veterans that they've got on the squad. So the Vols are 10.5-point favorites. I don't ever like picking against them against the number in the Tommy Bowl. However, it's going to be maybe a little empty in there because the weather in Knoxville is so bad. They got snow, just ridiculous amounts of snow up there in Knoxville. So maybe a spot you might favor the road team as opposed to a home team in Knoxville, but I would still be a little gun shy on that one. Missouri and Alabama will play at 6 o'clock. Alabama's 3-0 in the league. Missouri is 0-3 in the league. Coach Gates does not quite have the talent on this team that he had on that previous team. And as I mentioned, Alabama's gotten off to a 3-0 start in conference play. Sears is kind of Mark Sears has become kind of their go-to guy. They've moved on from the Javon Quinterly, Jaden Shackelford, Brandon Miller teams, and this is kind of Mark Sears' team. But they've been very, very good. They've won 5 games in a row. They won at Mississippi State by 8 points, and I just mentioned that Mississippi State was really tough on Tennessee and beat them. The other 2 wins are not that impressive with South Carolina and then Vanderbilt, who they beat by 3 up there in Nashville. Maybe a look-ahead spot here, potentially for Alabama, as they've got a trip to Tennessee coming this weekend, and that'll be a monster game in the SEC. But I still don't feel strongly enough about it to offer you a Missouri pick. That's a bad basketball team. So 14.5 is a big number for a reason. I would have trouble picking against the Tide there in Tuscaloosa. And the weather's really bad in Tuscaloosa as well. Saw a video of I'm blanking on her name, SEC Network. She hosts some studio stuff for them, does sideline, went to South Carolina. Can't come up with it.
Is it Lawson?
No,
Lawson,
not Kara Lawson. I can't think of her name. It's all right. But she's going to be there doing the sideline, and she was scraping ice off of her car at the hotel at the rental car spot. So not great weather in Tuscaloosa either, but they will play Missouri coming up at 6 o'clock. South Carolina and Georgia, 2 teams that have pretty good records. I don't know if either one of them are any good at all, quite frankly. So I guess we'll see who comes out on the top of that. Both of those teams are teams that I suggest LSU should be able to play with and potentially beat. Now, you look at their records, Georgia's 12-4, 2-1 in the league. South Carolina's 14-2 and 2-1 in the league. But I just am not wild about South Carolina's non-conference slate. I mean, I think their best win was probably Notre Dame, who's not very good. Maybe DePaul, maybe Virginia Tech by a couple points, but that was back in November. It's a lot of Elons, a lot of Florida A&M, a lot of Charleston Southern, a lot of Grand Canyon. It's South Carolina Upstate, who they. It's just not a great team. They did just get an overtime win over Missouri over the weekend. So I'm just curious to see who wins that game. I probably won't watch very much of it, but those 2 teams I think LSU can compete with. Just the record may not suggest that. And then the big game, I think, of the night after Florida and Tennessee is Texas A&M and Arkansas. And it's not a big game, I guess, in the sense that both teams are playing really well. It's the sense that both teams have gotten off to crummy starts. I mean, Arkansas is a 9-7 basketball team. It's 0-3 in the SEC. Now, Eric Musselman has rescued this thing midseason a couple times and gotten them on the right track. Remember, they got off to a bad start 2 years ago. I mean, I thought they were a non-factor, and they ended up making a run into the Elite Eight. Then last year, they got off to a terrible start in league play. They lost here in Baton Rouge, and then got hot and ended up making another tournament run, which is what Eric Musselman's done ever since he's gotten up there. They're 0-3 in league play, and they got a home game tonight against Texas A&M. You lose that, all of a sudden you start to look for, okay, where's the next win coming from? That's supposed to be a home game. Maybe it's South Carolina, and they got to go to Ole Miss, and they got Kentucky. Like, it could get away from you if you're Arkansas. And with A&M, good win against Kentucky over the weekend. I thought Wade Taylor was excellent in that game. I thought they shot it better. I think they have enjoyed getting Boots Radford back for his 943rd year in college basketball. And then Henry Coleman is a really good player for them down low as well. I'm still trying to figure out exactly why it was that LSU went there and won. I guess you could just talk about defensive rebounding for LSU, and that's as simple as it can be. Arkansas has been a pretty good rebounding team this year, so we'll see if A&M is able to go up there and wear them out on the boards like they have. Vegas tends to think so. Vegas gives the 2.5-point choice to the visitors up there in Fayetteville. There's something that tells me not to quite quit on Eric Musselman's team because of the track record, but it's just a talent issue. You had NBA guys on that team last year, and it just doesn't look that way this year. You got Devo Davis back as kind of the leader of the group, but as far as like guys like Black or that were headed to the NBA, like Walsh, like you had guys that were first-round picks on that team last year. That's just not the case this year. And in this sport, which is so dependent on to turn the roster over every single year, because you're going to have 3 guys graduate and 2 guys into the transfer portal and 2 guys leave early for the NBA if you're an elite level program, well, that's your top 8 guys. And that's just kind of how it feels at this level, which is the opposite of what A&M's dealing with, where they got everybody back. They just haven't played very well. So 8 o'clock SEC Network up there in Fayetteville at Bud Walton for A&M and Arkansas. The loser of that game is just you're just behind the 8 ball. You just are. I mean, if Arkansas loses that game at home, they're 0-4 in league play. They're going to need to win 9 or 10 league games to get into the tournament with that non-conference resume with 4 losses on it. The math starts to really get difficult. A&M, kind of the same deal. You lose this game, you're 1-3 in league play, and you're 10-7. That's not a very easy place to make the dance from. So we'll see. That's your SEC basketball for this evening. I'll take Florida and the points in Knoxville. I'll take Alabama, lay the 14.5 in Tuscaloosa. South Carolina, Georgia, I'll take the points in that one. 7.5. Georgia's catching in Columbia. And then tonight, give me Arkansas plus the 2.5 at home to try to find a way. That's got to be a desperate team up there at Bud Walton this evening. So we'll just have to wait and see. If you missed out, news of the day today, Pete Carmichael, Saints offensive coordinator, has been fired. They've also let go of wide receiver coach Cody Burns and Bob Bicknell, the offensive analyst. We'll talk to Sharif Ishak about all the happenings down in the 504 and what may be next to come. That's next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to Six
Sandiger joined me and Jimmy Ott for the Wednesday edition of Live at Lunch from the original walk-ons Burbank and Nicholson. Professional sports handicapper Randy McKay along with Scott Rabelais and Wes Reynolds joins us live at lunch 11 a.m. Wednesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Busy day down in New Orleans. Cleaning some lockers out there in the offensive staff room. Pete Carmichael, offensive coordinator and member of the staff for 18 years with the Saints, was let go today, as well as wide receiver coach Cody Burns and offensive senior analyst Bob Bicknell. To talk about it, we bring on our guy Sharif Ishak, WDSU down in New Orleans. Sharif, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's cold, very cold. I hate it, but
Yes.
you know, it is what it is.
It is, but there's the hot stove was burning down there in New Orleans. What was your reaction when you heard the news today?
Not shocked at all.
No?
I think we've been saying it all season that, you know, Pete Carmichael would be the scapegoat once the season comes to an end, and they would move on from him and try to reshape this offensive staff and try to, you know, get a little bit of better of an offense and maybe move things in the right direction and have it a consistent offense. So, you know, it's just a great run for him comes to an end. I mean, it didn't end the right way. I mean, he was the last member of Sean Payton's original staff, still hanging out here in New Orleans, and now it's over for him. So, I'm just curious to see if anything else is going to be done, because I'm not sure if that's entirely everything this team needs. I think there's more to be done, because it can't just be an offensive coordinator and a receivers coach and an analyst. Then you're going to say everything's fixed, because I think there's more to it.
Look, they played well on offense down the stretch. Derek Carr was healthy and played his best football late. Was there a part of you that thought that was going to save Pete Carmichael's job?
Nope, not at all. I did not think that I thought too much. It just was inconsistent. I mean, it was great that they finished that strong, but where was that, you know, the previous 12 games of the season, whenever they could have, you know, won the division easily and be playing in Detroit Sunday in a meaningful game again to get to the NFC Championship game. But I just don't think it was consistent. Now, is it Pete Carmichael's fault? Some of it is. Is some of it on Derek? Yeah, he deserves some of the responsibility, and some of the players on offense. It isn't just, you know, Pete Carmichael. The leader of the offense is the quarterback as well. So honestly, I think it was just time for a change. But I think there needs to be more change, and maybe players, maybe a few more coaches. I just don't think this is the end of it, and saying, all right, everything's going to be fine now next season.
Is there a chance that an organization that so much prioritizes stability and continuity will promote an offensive coordinator from within, like Ronald Curry?
I mean, I'm glad you asked that. Yes, I do think he's going to have a really good chance to be the next OC. Players love him. He's respected. Man, whenever he's talking to the guys, the quarterbacks, and the players on this team, they're listening intently. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because loyalty is big to them, and they do like to promote from within. They did it with Dennis Allen. They did it with Dennis Allen twice when they made him the defense coordinator after they fired Rob Ryan. So I would not be surprised if it's Ronald Curry, and then maybe they bring in somebody as an analyst to help out even more.
Would that be a wise thing to do?
Might be John Gruden. So, I mean, look, if you're just going to fire everyone and promote from within and thinking it's going to be better, maybe it'll be better for a little bit, and then maybe it'll get back to being the way it was, and that's not a good thing. You have to find a way to, you know, get a different voice in here. You got to make things a little bit more crisp. You got to have people who are like paying attention and to every little detail for 17 games. Like 5 or 6 games isn't great. That's why they were in this situation. So if it's bringing in another voice to help out, if it is Ronald Curry, great. I mean, like, as long as they can get this moving in the right direction. But, man, look, there's a lot of other things that need to happen for the Saints to be a playoff team next year, because that schedule is going to really punch them in the mouth.
If Ronald Curry walked in this room right now and hit me with a phone book, I wouldn't have no idea who he was. I couldn't identify him at all. I have no idea who he. I mean, I know what he does. I don't know, but I don't know who he is, and I don't necessarily know what his input is in the Saints offense. But I said in the first hour, if they promote from within for offensive coordinator, like they did the last time, like they did with Dennis Allen at head coach, like they've done for 4 years now, trying to recreate this Sean Payton deal and keep the continuity, I just don't think they're a serious organization without trying to shake things up and do something differently than what's gotten you 500 results the last 2 years. I cannot endorse doing that again.
I'm with you. Look, I mean, if the definition of his insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and that's what the Saints have been doing. It's just not working. It isn't working. If they let Dennis Allen truly make this pick, and it goes sideways, and it is with promoting from within, everyone's fired. Everyone's fired at some point next season or after the season, especially if they don't win, because it's not a good look. I mean, I'm with you. I like to do the due diligence and give me the best person I can hire. There's a list of great offensive coordinators out there that you could hire, or quarterbacks coaches out there you can hire that are in the playoffs right now that might be able to bring this offense to a consistently good level. If you're just going to keep on running it back, you're going to keep on being that team who's mediocre in purgatory for a long, long time.
I don't think anybody would suggest that Dennis Allen's job is perfectly secure. He will enter next season in some hot water, and everyone's aware of that. Does that make it difficult for him to hire an offensive coordinator?
He better get it right. I mean, this is like, he has been given every chance possible now. He got rid of the coaches on the defense and brought in his guys. Now he's getting rid of the offensive staff, and he's going to be able to hire his guys. I mean, he's going into the season really, really, really on a hot seat. They may not have admitted on Airline Drive, but it ain't going well. It ain't going well for him, and his seat is more than warm right now going into the 2024 season. It was warm enough when this season ended. It's scorching hot whenever this season will kick off.
This is a difficult question for you to answer, but I'll ask it anyway, just get your thoughts on it. How much input does Derek Carr get on this?
I think he'll have a little bit of input. I mean, because you got to have someone who's willing to work with Derek and strong personality. You got to have someone who might have just a stronger personality, who's very willing to fight back, and that's why I keep bringing John Gruden's name up. I mean, a strong personality that it may work out for him. It may work out for the offense. You need somebody who can bring those fresh ideas and get into Carr and hold him accountable, because at some point, like, you have to start holding your quarterback accountable. I know it's like everyone tries to make this comparison to Drew Brees and Derek Carr, which it's crazy to make, but Brees was accountable and held himself accountable. And when things went wrong, he would say, I was wrong. I should have done this. You got to get your quarterback on that same timeline. You got to get somebody who's accountable. So, yeah, I think he'll have a little bit of input. Ultimately, I think DA, Mickey, and Derek are going to probably have to hash this out and see who's the best possible. I mean, because everyone's job's on the line. Derek, one more year. I mean, you can get out of it after next year.
How close are the Saints? And I ask you that understanding what we saw from Tampa yesterday and what they've got in front of them with Detroit. Does that result yesterday make you think the Saints are closer than we thought 2 weeks ago?
Nah, NFL is just so strange, man. Like, they beat the Bucks easily, and the Bucks, you're like, all right, man, the Eagles are gonna go into Tampa and just destroy them. Wrong, completely wrong. Now, Philadelphia might have been on fraud alert because they've been going backwards since they were 10-1, and they have not been good. No, I mean, it's still. I just don't think the division's good. It's going to be up for grabs once again next year. You got 2 new coaches coming in next year. I mean, if the Saints could get it right, I mean, the only problem is they're getting old and expensive still. they have to get younger. I mean, they have to find, some pieces on offense. They got to find some pieces on the defensive line, offensive line, maybe a running back, a linebacker, maybe a cornerback. I mean, the problem is like they're just getting too old, Hunt. I mean, every year we're going to say that. Like, next thing you know, like the entire roster that were young veterans are now old. I mean, sure. I mean, they have a chance. Is it going to happen? I don't know. Every year I keep saying this is a 10-win team, and they were close to it this year, but 10 wins don't mean anything, or 9 wins don't mean anything if you're not getting into the playoffs. And yesterday should have been a frustration for the organization and the fan base watching what Tampa did at home, because that could have possibly been them last night playing in that game at home and playing in Detroit next week.
No doubt about it. I told my audience I saw a mock draft from The Athletic today, and I kind of assumed that the top 3 quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2, 3. This mock draft did not have that. They actually had Malik Neighbors jumping up there into one of those top spots, but that slid Jaden Daniels back down to 8, where Atlanta took him. How sad would you be if Jaden Daniels ended up in the ATL?
It'd be on par for everything. I mean, that's just exactly how it's supposed to go, Hunt. He's going to end up in Atlanta somehow with whoever coaches. If it's Bill Belichick, I don't know who's going to be the coach in Atlanta, but that's just how it's going to. It feels like that's how it's going to go. I feel like the Giants are going to pass on Jaden, and he's just going to end up in Atlanta, and Saints fans are going to be, see, it could have been us. Could have been us if we just lost those last 2 games. Could have been us. But honestly, Hunt, if they do draft a quarterback with this staff, it's hard to trust them to develop and, make him a good quarterback for the future. It really is. You drafting a quarterback sounds great in theory, but do you trust the staff to develop this guy and let him be good?
Yeah, it's tough. Let's talk Pels here briefly before we let you go. West Coast road trip. They go 3-2. Kind of let the Mavs off the hook last night. Your thoughts on that 3-2 road trip?
I thought, last week in talk, I said if you can go 3-2, that'd be good. Man, it was so close to being 4-1. What a crazy 2 games. They don't play any starters in that first game, and they beat them because of Jordan Hawkins' career game. And then yesterday just looked too sloppy, man. It looked too sloppy. Got off to a slow start. Eventually, tied it and then took the lead in the fourth quarter. Those last 5 minutes, man, it's those crunch time minutes where they kind of fall apart this year. I mean, 4-7 in games, crunch time games, which are the last 5 minutes. I mean, that's not good enough. I mean, 0-6 in games decided by 3 or less, even though they lost by 5. And they've got to figure it out with the starting lineup on a consistent basis. Feels like the Saints and the Pelicans keep saying they got to find it with their offense to be consistent. I think they're bottom 4 in the NBA in terms of like the data and their starting lineup. I mean, the metrics is kind of against their starting lineup. Not sure if Willie's going to have to, tinker a little bit with his offense and his starting lineup to get it going. Or it's just maybe more time on task for these guys and more time on the court, because this is kind of the first season for Willie to have all his starters. So, I mean, with that being said, they're still in a good position, man. And, I know they're number 7. They're in a good spot. Don't want to rain down on them that bad because of yesterday's game. But some of those games that are slipping away, man, it could have 5 or 6 more wins if they just, if they can just learn to close out some games or not blow any double-digit leads. There's another double-digit lead blown yesterday, so that's 10 for the year.
My thing with the Pels, like we saw 2 years ago, they had that ridiculous finish and got into the play-in and made a little bit of noise there. And then last year, they had such a hot start. It was a little bit up and down for those 2 years. This has kind of been consistent outside of the 1 5-game losing streak over a week in November. They've been pretty steady. Does that give you any optimism that they've played pretty good basketball since the second week in November?
Yeah, absolutely. And what gives me more optimism is that C.J. McCollum has been shooting the ball lights out. Now if they can get like Jordan Hawkins some more minutes on the court, Trey, maybe Murphy going a little bit more because he's kind of not been the guy that they expected him to be. I know he's still coming off that injury. He was injured for the beginning of the season, but there's a lot of optimism, man. The way Zion played in that in the second quarter yesterday and even in the fourth quarter, yeah, I mean, got to peak at the right time. I mean, you don't want to do it right now, but you certainly don't want to be losing games like that too often for the first half of the season. Maybe in the second half of the season, a lot more of those games will go their way. Like I said, this month of January is brutal. 15 games that are very brutal. If they can finish it on the plus side, that's a good thing because I think it's the schedule in their favor to close out the season. So get close to that 45 to 48 win mark, and they're not a top 7. They're out of the play-in. They're a top 6 seed. And I just like the way they match up against teams, man. The way they play against the Kings, the way they play against the Mavs. At times, the Clippers, even though they blew them out that one time, it was like one of the first games they beat them in a while. But they do match up well against some of the top teams in the Western Conference. So I like where they're at right now.
4 straight home games starting tomorrow with Charlotte in the Blender. Sharif Ashak, WDSU, with us every single Tuesday. Thanks, man.
Anytime, Hunt.
Yeah, Sharif, and as I said, always with us on Tuesdays talking Saints and Pels. Let's come back and close things out, a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Catastrophe last night in my home. I'm still awake, wife's asleep, power goes out, and that means I have to go sleep in the guest room. Why, would you ask? Well, I have a CPAP machine because I snore like crazy, and if the power doesn't work, the CPAP doesn't work, I can't sleep in the bed. Got to go in the guest room. I could avoid that if I just called Boudreaux's Electric, but we're about to move, so we're going to do that afterward. You can avoid it right now by calling Boudreaux's Electric, certified Generac generator dealer. Look, premier Generac generator dealer. That means they're in the top 3% in the country in terms of their generators. Protect yourself from power outages. We think about hurricanes. We think about those summer storms. Last night happens most years too, where sometimes you lose power. You can avoid it with Boudreaux's Electric. If this was the last straw, because your house is now 50 degrees and it's freezing and you don't have power, call the folks over at Boudreaux's Electric. They'd be happy to take your phone call. 225-300-9389. 225-300-9389. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. It's Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset.
Weekend, we bring you a double dose of NFL games. We start on Saturday at 3:30 with Texans-Ravens. Immediately following that, it's Packers-49ers. Then on Sunday at 2 o'clock, it's Buccaneers-Lions. Then Chiefs-Bills. Catch all the action on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
.104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you live coverage of the 2024 Reese's Senior Bowl. Our team of T-Bob Hebert and Jacob Hester will be hosting Off the Bench live from Mobile, Alabama, Monday, January 29th through Thursday, February 2nd. Listen on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and watch us on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One more reminder, no Pluckers sports trivia tonight. Pluckers closed up for the weather, so we'll crank things back up a week from tonight. 8:30, Nicholson location, just not tonight. Take it or leave it, Beck.
Hit the wrong button there.
That's all right.
First one, D1 Baseball, releasing their preseason top 25, and they're going team by team right now the past few hours. And coming in at number 4 is your LSU Tigers. Take it or leave it.
I think that's fine. I'll take it. They got Wake at number 1. That rotation is going to be really good. Josh Hartles, who LSU saw the first time they saw Wake in that game that LSU lost in a thriller. They've got him there. They've got Chase Burns, who will be there from Tennessee. And then I think Michael Massey, who was a really good reliever for them last year, is going to slide, and that's going to be really tough. Florida's in there at number 2. Jack Caglione is back for them. And Arkansas checking at number 3 if they can stay healthy. Hagen Smith, top of their rotation, is going to be tough to deal with. LSU, I think, the starting pitching rotation looks phenomenal. Got some question marks on how guys develop with offensively. He's got a pretty good coach for that. So I'm okay with LSU at number 4. That'll be just fine with me.
The 2024 LSU, following in a trend of LSU baseball here, we've got the 2024 LSU baseball team photo was released on social media, and the piping has returned to the jerseys. Uniform czar, take it or leave it.
Oh, really got me going this morning. That'll really warm the soul to see the piping on the jerseys. Remember when, like, the 2017 team...
So you'll take it.
Oh, I'll take it. The 2017 team went to Omaha, and they were wearing, like, the pajamas. They have no stripes anywhere. It looked like they were wearing sweatpants. Well, 2 years ago, they returned the piping to the pants, but the jerseys still didn't have them. Now, they've got them, actually, the piping on the jerseys coming down, right down the middle of the jersey. I would prefer it if they had the interlocking LSU going down the left breast there, but they've got the Tigers over the front. The piping looks fantastic. Team looks like a baseball team again and not a team out there in pajamas, so I'm all for it. I'm fired up for it. That's very good.
Troy Aikman said last night on the telecast for the playoffs that the Eagles are no different than the 2-15 Panthers because they don't have a playoff win.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. A little different situation there, Troy, as I think he knows. Look, I understand where he's coming from, that the Eagles have a phenomenal roster that looked really great last year getting to the Super Bowl and was 10-1 this year, and you're thinking that may be the class of the NFL, and it fell apart. And now Jason Kelsey's retiring, and Fletcher Cox is getting older, and Lane Johnson's getting much older. And, like, I get the thought that this was the year they really needed to make a push and try to win that Super Bowl, and they fell apart. And you're going to look a little bit different next year, and you probably have a different coach next year. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the Eagles, who won, 11 games this year in the NFL, like, were the same as the Panthers, who were laughing stock for much of the year. I'll stay just short of that, Troy.
All right, last one here. Crock-pot meals. Take it or leave it.
Oh, got to take it. I'm fired up. We put pot roast in the crock pot today at 11. So when I get home here at about 5 o'clock, it's going to be awesome. Little bit of a trick here. My wife's big on making the house smell very good as we show it to potential buyers of our home. And so she wants to, like, bake cookies before they come and whatnot. So this time we're going with the pot roast. They're going to walk in, maybe it smells really good. We can't be there. We won't be there at all. They'll have their real estate agent and they'll walk around. So if you are going to look at a house and you're listening to me, you're going to be there at 3:30, and you walk in and you walk into a house and there's a crock pot going with some pot roast, you're looking at my house because that's what we got going right now. So don't touch that, please.
I was going to say, that's the only problem is like you walk in there smelling like, man, I want to try this. It smells great.
Yeah, it will, but they cannot. If they want to purchase the home, they can have the whole thing, and I'll go buy them another one.
There you go.
That'll be just fine with me. But yeah, I love walking in to a great crock pot meal. Good for like the cold weather as it is. We don't really have time to make a gumbo tonight. That's more of a time-intensive deal. So we'll go pot roast with some veggies. That'll be quite tasty. Appreciate y'all for hanging out with us here on this Tuesday. Had a ton to get to. We opened with the news of the Saints moving on from Pete Carmichael. If you want my thoughts on that, you can go to Hunt on Saints on YouTube or go to the places I tell you every day to find our audio on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google as well. Wherever you find your podcast, you can find us. Just search The Hunt Palmer Show. Second segment, LSU added a new wide receiver to the fold this weekend. I did not get to that yesterday, so I wanted to today. What does that mean for that unit, and how do I feel that LSU's offense moving forward? You can find that on YouTube, Hunt on LSU. If you just want your LSU football fix, subscribe to Hunt on LSU, and you'll get that sent right to your homepage every time you pull up good old YouTube. Glenn West, always with us on Tuesdays. He's from Go 24/7. We talk some hoops with him, as well as a little bit of football. Mock draft with Jaden Daniels headed to Atlanta. What would that mean for Saints fans? And then Sharif Ishak with us at 2:30 from WDSU, talking Saints as well as the Pels. Fired up for tomorrow's show. I got a lot to get to. There's probably going to be some news in the college football world that we can react to, and certainly we'll get you ready for LSU and Ole Miss from the PMAC. That'll be a 6 o'clock tip-off on Wednesday night, so very much looking forward to that. That's it for us here on this Tuesday. Hope y'all are staying dry and warm. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 on the Hunt Palmer Show.
If you get back up when you fall, you gotta get up.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage.
ReliefWindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.